Hello, everyone. This is Dwayne. I wanted to take this opportunity to discuss EER diagrams and how we can use them to visualize what our entire database looks like. When we are constantly working with databases and we're entering data, we're creating databases, creating the tables, setting the values to each of the fields, and inputting the information into the tables, we often concentrate on that specific table that we are creating or entering data into. When we are working with databases like in that way and entering data, we often do not have the opportunity to see how the entire database layout looks, what is related to each other, what primary keys are tied to each other in each table, what are the secondary keys, are there one-to-one relationships within the tables, are there one-to-many relationships in the table. The way that we can do that is through MySQL Workbench, we can actually create an EER diagram, which stands for Enhanced Entity Diagram. And what this will allow us to do is to visualize or see the entire database in a visual setting. Not only that, it's kind of an interactive setting too, to where you can actually create the one-to-one relationships, the one-to-many relationships across multiple tables, and so on. So when we take a look at this here, you want to make sure again, like last time, that you are logged in or using the root account. If you are using a Windows-based machine, you will see an icon here that kind of looks like a little flow chart up on the left hand side, and that is where we would click to access or create an EER diagram for a database. If we are working with the Mac, oftentimes you will see it either underneath the MySQL connections, either above it, or last time, if I remember correctly, the last update, it had it down in the lower left hand corner, and it would essentially look um, like uh, like this as soon as we click on it. So we see where it says models, and this is what you would find in the bottom left hand corner if you're using a Mac. What we want to do is take a look at the different options here. We can add different models. We can open up a model if we have one, or we can create a EER diagram by attaching it from a database, from an existing database. And this is what we are going to do in our first one of our first assignments. So what we'll do here is create EER model. Once we do that, what this is to engineer, you're actually trying to gain access to your database, and then it's also going to pull a list of the databases on from your database server. So as long as your local host is right here and you're in port 3306 and then that your username is root, you can go ahead and click on next. If your password has not been entered, this is where you will be prompted for your password before you get to the screen. And once we get here, it's going to connect to the database management system. It'll retrieve schema lists from the database and then check common server configuration or issues. And once everything is completed, we can click on next. And now we are presented with a list of databases that we may want to take a look at to see how it is built. So I'm going to pick on the AP database today, so that way we can see exactly how this AP database that we are going to be working with a lot through this semester actually looks when we take a look at a diagram. So from here we just simply click the checkbox and then we go ahead and click on next. And then afterwards we wait for a little few seconds here, and then once we get the two check marks, we go ahead and click on next again. And now it's going to ask us to import the MySQL table objects, and we'll import everything. There are times where you might want to look for just specific tables to see how they are related, but in this case we want to see what the entire database looks like. So we'll go ahead and click on execute and wait for a few minutes here, and then should see a diagram appear for us once this wizard is done. And as you can see, my screen behind me has changed. So I will go ahead and click on next again, and then I'll click on finish. And if you take a look here, we have an EER diagram of our AP database. And if we look at all of these types of tables that are included here, so we have a general ledger account table, we have invoice table, invoice archive, we have a vendors table, a vendors contact table, and as you can see, there are lines that are drawn to other tables within the database. And what those lines mean simply is that those databases have some sort of data sort of fill that really ties them all together. So if we were to take a look at this and I wanted to see what is really tied to or what field is really tied to, I can just put my mouse pointer over to it, and you can see here, well, if I highlight this, we see that the account number is highlighted in the general ledger accounts. And if I scroll down, an account number down here as well. So those two are tied in those databases or those tables together. If I went over here, I can see that hey, there's a terms ID that's set to integers, which is actually the same here on the vendors table where it says default terms ID integer. The key is when we are creating primary keys, they have to match. They have to be the exact field type. They have to be either an integer, they have to be a character if you wanted to, and they also have to be the same size, because this is what the information or what the queries are going to look for to extract information from our databases, particularly when we get into like the outer or inner joins of pulling information from multiple tables at one time. So as you can see here, we can keep on highlighting here. We can see how all of these are mapped. So if we take a look again here, we see we have a terms ID in the invoices table. And if we come down to the terms, you can see terms ID there as well. So we use the select statement to select information. We can pull data from this table using the terms ID. We can also pull the data from this table using the terms ID. We can pull data from both tables using the terms ID based off the SQL statement that we want to design or what we are looking for specifically. If we take a look over here on the side here, we can see that we have a one-to-one relationship here, which basically means, you know, it's a direct relationship to each other. And if you take a look at this here, we have a one-to-many. And if we go from various links here, you will see that we have the same type of diagrams here. So if you see here, we have many options, one-to-many, one-to-one, and so on. So this essentially is our visual layout of our database. So it's essentially just like a large flow chart. So that way you keep yourself organized, you can see exactly what goes on. And if you wanted to, we can bring all of this together and move these around here. So one thing is, do not go delete these lists yet unless you are really want to play around and see what it does when you delete the lines. You can do that. Just make sure that you restore your database back to its normal state when you are done, because we can literally disconnect all of these tables by right clicking and deleting some of these lines here. And if that's the case, then a lot of our queries will not work, and the database will no longer be a relational database if we take all of this away. So I hope this helps HIN620. Please give that a shot when you are working with your EER diagrams. It's very important that you click the option to create an EER diagram from a database when we're working with some of our examples. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I will be keeping my phone near me, keeping my email open so that way I can respond to you as quickly as I can. Have a great evening, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you.